you guys were taking different positions. I just wanted to know which one was which. So like when you guys talk, I know like
And
where
it's a
you're coming from. You know.
majority globe Earth room. It's a globe Earth survey. Yeah? You only find one or two flat Earth, maybe more.
Okay. See, I was invited to the server thinking that it was a flat Earth server, just like the 24/7 um
No, it's
No,
the
no,
flat
no.
opposite.
Earth because
These guys
that's
What
what
really
did you?
somebody told
believe,
me.
like you, that they want to.
There's,
Right?
there's not nearly enough malicious muting in this channel for it to be a flat Earth.
There was some
One
malicious
thing I did.
muting though.
So,
We don't tend to kick and ban people just
Chris, that was
out of the
good.
blue.
I got kicked and banned from the 24/7
Oh,
Flat Earth Discord because um I wasn't and this is like I'm being completely honest. I was done just arguing intellectually and I just went into the whole arguing like you guys are just being contrarian, autists and using all kinds of
You went to ad
logical
hoc.
fallacy kind of like terminology to try to discredit everyone. So it's kind of you guys are basically just autistic. I mean, not you
Yeah,
guys
you went full
specifically, just
ad
the
hoc.
people.
You never go full
Yeah,
ad hoc, bro.
the people in the chat, not you guys specifically,
Not
as
you
in like
guys.
the flat
So you're saying the
earthers.
flat
But
earthers are. Say again. What are flat
no, no,
earthers?
no, no. The people, specifically that I was talking to in that chat, not all flat earthers.
But if they want to be contrarian, wouldn't there be people in there that would be contrarian against the contrarians? That kind of breaks down
No,
a
okay,
little bit.
so
No, not when
I'll
they're
go
in a
ahead and be
circle.
honest here. I'll go ahead and be honest here.
Mhm.
At one
When
point,
they're in a circle of
I,
themselves.
at one point, I did believe in flat Earth. So like I was super into it
What
and
made you
like
believe in flat
honestly,
Earth?
well, and I'll get to that. So the reason why is because I used to be super into conspiracy theories and like think that everything was like, oh, there's some sort of hidden agenda. Everyone's like out, not a personal paranoia, like somebody's following me, but more like a, oh, the government's keeping all these secrets from us. So everyone's like, there's like some sort of hidden thing behind everything, trying to change our lives and control us and
Yeah,
stuff
but I'm
like that. And
asking, what made you
honestly,
think that though?
what made me think that? Well, I don't know. I just like started going down a rabbit hole on YouTube of conspiracy theories, and like I just started like going after one conspiracy after the next, and
No,
then
but
it
I'm
ended up
asking, why
landing
No,
did
but
you
there had
on
to be
this.
believe it then?
substance for
Why would you
each of
believe it?
the things that you believed.
Oh,
Like, you
why
don't
did I
believe that
believe
there's
it?
green
Yeah.
aliens in the moon, for instance, right?
Yeah,
Well,
did
why
you
did
see
I?
the laser test? Did you see the 8 inches per mile
So,
squared missing curvature? I mean, because some flat
well,
earthers point to that as
the
part of the
the
reason
main
why they're like, there's no
Yeah,
curvature.
go let him answer.
yeah, so the main thing that made me like really go on to this was that like you guys were just discussing about the moon landings being faked and all that stuff, right? Like I actually like truly believe that the moon landings were faked, not because we can't go there, but like I went down the rabbit hole because I thought that maybe they were just doing it so we could like beat the Soviets, you know what I mean? Like it's like a show of like, oh, look, we're better
Yeah, but I
than
want to
you.
get
So
to the
then like
point
I
of
went
when you
down.
said you used to be a flat earther, now you're not. How did that happen? Why were you a flat earther?
Well,
Why are
because
you not?
I realized that I realized that it's just a place of being like it's just a place of being like what is it? Like where your imagination runs and you're like,
Sorry,
ooh, I want
sorry.
everything to be a
What
conspiracy.
attracted you to the
How
flat earth in the first place? I just want to know, like, what did you look at and you think, ah, yes, the earth is flat, and then you were like, oh, no, it's not flat.
well, before you answer that question, because that's probably got a decent answer to it. How long were you a flat Earth for?
I mean, like I wasn't a diehard like flat earther. Like I knew every little statistic like you guys do. I'm just saying like I believed in it, you know, and like
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
there's some
Yeah,
truth
for
to
how
it, you
long?
know.
He's
yeah.
asking.
How
And
long, mate? How long?
I would say probably like a year and a half, 2 years or so. But
Okay,
it
now
wasn't
Yeah.
like at
why?
the
Back
same
to the
And
time
why. We
focused
got the
and what
on
why.
about
like
Spurs' question?
Yeah,
Now, go ahead,
why?
Spurs.
What did you look at and you
why.
thought, ah, yeah, this is flat?
Yeah, so like I was saying is that the moon landings were faked, and I don't think we can like what. So it's like a oh, if they're lying, if NASA's lying about this, then what else are they lying about? What credibility do they have? That was my main thing. That was like maybe the flat earthers do have some truth to what they're saying. So then I was like, well, maybe
Okay,
the
so I'm
Earth
getting
is
a picture
flat.
now. So you
Yeah.
no,
believe the flat
chemo,
earth.
chemo. Let him finish, man. Let
Hold
him
on,
finish.
Kosher. Do you believe the flat earth because you doubted the moon landing? And then you thought, well, maybe the flat earthers have some. Is that the reason?
I'm more curious as to what
Hold
snapped you
on,
out.
hold
Come
on,
on,
because there's
guys.
a
Come on.
process here. I'm
Questions
trying to
asked.
get
Let him
from.
answer. And let him answer to the end. Go ahead, new guy.
Yeah, Hentai, was it fair to say one of your main proofs for the globe were NASA images? And when you doubted NASA because of the moon landings, you also doubted the rest of the evidence they gave, like the images that they gave for the globe?
Yeah, sorry guys about that. My mic died, but now I'm back in it. So what was the question you guys last
Sorry,
asked?
yeah,
Sorry
because
about that.
just quickly, because I just want to understand how you were thinking. So you were thinking moon landings, flat earthers may be onto something. Then you became a flat earther that year because of the moon landing.
Well, because of that, and then also, like I said, I watched a bunch of other flat Earth videos, and I was kind of convinced on some of the points that they had, such as like, um, like the whole curvature kind of thing,
Like
stuff like
what? Be
that.
more
I mean,
specific.
I didn't understand like every single little point that they had, to be honest. Like some of them didn't make sense to me, but like I saw videos of like, people going to space and like they're seeing like not really any curve, like it's more like a flat kind of thing. Like there's a lot of fisheye lens kind of work going on to make it look way
The
more
high
curved than what
altitude
it
balloon
is.
footage.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
stuff like that.
did you do anything practical yourself, like a measurement, laser test, camera observations?
No, like I said, it wasn't at the center focus of my life. It's not like I went out and did tests on it. I'm just saying like it was more of like I looked into it a little bit on YouTube and then I was like, oh yeah, maybe they have some valid points. Maybe the Earth could be flat. It wasn't more like I am a diehard flat Earther. The Earth
Right.
is 100% flat. It's more
Okay.
like a
So you weren't
maybe
like
they're
a
right.
flat earther, then you thought they may be onto something.
You were a globe
Yeah.
skeptic for like a year.
So for a year and a half to 2 years, you say you're a flat earther. How long ago did
he
you go
wasn't a
back to the
flat
globe?
earther, he was a globe skeptic.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
how
so
long
I
ago
was
did
a
you go
globe
back to the
skeptic.
globe?
I would say maybe like half a year, maybe like 9 months ago or
And
so.
what brought
And
you back to the
what
globe?
tipped you back? What tipped you
What brought
back?
me back? Well, it's just like I realized that a lot of the things that I was thinking was all just because I'm trying to be contrarian. Like it's like I wish that there was some sort of hidden thing. I wish there was some sort of interesting thing to what's going on. But really, like
Mhm.
that's kind of like a general paranoia kind of thought. It's not like I said, it's not a personal paranoia. Like I feel like somebody's following me. It's more of
Okay.
like I
So
wish that there was some sort of
Bro, you
is
ad
interesting
homed
thing going on
yourself.
behind the scenes. Yeah.
Hamster, so
Like, you
is what you
didn't
have now is it the same belief you had about the flat earth? So what you believe about the globe, is it the same as before, or do you now have a measurement of the globe or something?
No, I mean, like, I don't, there's nothing like that specifically was like, oh, aha, I measured this and now I know that Earth is a globe. It's more like, I realized that I was only going down the flat Earth route to begin with because I got into conspiracies and I was like, oh, look, there's something hidden. People are hiding things from me. Look, or like
But
not
Did
me,
you
but like us.
did you
do
feel like you were
realize
lying to
you
yourself?
literally hold up? Do you
No,
realize you
it's
literally
just like
ad homed yourself? You discounted the argument because of the person, because of yourself.
That
Did
was
you
a
feel
very
like you were lying to
insightful
yourself?
statement.
Did I feel like I was lying to
That was
myself? What do you mean?
Well, discounting the
a
globe
very
and
insightful statement
oh,
and very brave of you to admit
Yeah,
that.
like I was just discounting the globe because it was more like a like oh look, the government's lying to us, like I said, I mean, like there's not really any other way to word it. I mean, that's kind of like why, you know, like it
But
would be the same thing
your
as with flat
Yeah, but
process
did
for
Earth,
you
like,
choosing your process for choosing flat and the globe are pretty much the same, right? You just like, well, some people think this, so I'll follow them. Oh, actually, now some people believe this, so I'll follow them. It's not. That's how you're coming to a decision, right?
no, it wasn't.
Actual
It wasn't like
evidence
some
that
people are
attracts.
doing it. It was more like people presented evidence through YouTube videos, and then
Excellent.
like
That's
I
what we're
was
talking
emotive.
about. What is that globe
Yeah.
evidence? That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, like what's the substance that took you back to the globe? Not just ad homing yourself saying, I'm paranoid or I'm being a contrarian or whatever. What's the substance? Because you might be paranoid or contrarian, but there might actually be evidence, supporting what you thought in that state.
Right.
What I
Did
thought
you
in
come
like
to the
the
realization? Did you come to the realization that they're not equally valid positions?
Not equally valid. Yeah, like the flat Earth is not really equally valid because
Well, that
Well,
would
that's
there's
what we're
have to
trying
so
to
be
find
supported
out,
by
aren't we?
evidence.
We're trying to find that out now. What did you see on the globe? So you're a flat earther, and then something you saw on the globe
So-
side
well,
made you think.
okay. So I'll get to
Let-
that then.
Stick to
So
one
I'll get to
question.
that. All right. So I'll get to the point that you guys are making. So why is flat Earth not equally as valid as globe Earth? Okay. So the reason why I think that is because a lot of the videos I was watching on flat Earth is just that they're videos. Like they're literally just people who have like gotten into like discords and like all of these little like they're not actual scientists. They're just people that like have this like false sense of like, oh, I'm a scientist because I'm doing these experiments based off of what I've seen on other YouTube videos from other flat earthers. So it's not really like a science. Whereas with the globe earther videos, if you watch any kind of mainstream science or even just like low stream, like not mainstream science, but like even just like some other YouTube scientists that actually have degrees and have gone to universities and done you know what I mean, have actual science backing behind them.
Right.
Yeah, but wouldn't you
I
agree
mean,
it's not
like they have
really
more, they
about
have,
who they are, but what they present, the evidence, the content
yeah,
of what they say?
but it also comes down to credibility. I mean, like if a person's presenting something and they don't have any really kind of credentials behind them other than just like, oh, hey, I've done this myself. I'm, you know, I mean, I'm a flat earther scientist, but like you've never gone to college, you've never had any formal studies into any kind of matters other than just like your own
I'm not
looking
even
into it.
All right,
doubting
I'm
that.
with you.
Hold on,
Kimo,
percent.
let
I'm
me
not even
respond to this
doubting
real
that
quick.
because we should.
Let me respond real quick. So, in terms of the credibility,
Yeah.
you're saying that they did these experiments. They show demonstrations, right? And if
Yeah,
you
like the
first
laser
off,
test, like I've seen that. I've seen the black swan stuff, but those guys aren't scientists. They're just
all right,
guys.
but you see the work they did, the demonstration, right?
Yeah,
So
I've
you
seen
could
the
say it's not a
demonstration.
credible video. Maybe they cut it. Maybe they're lying or something like that. But they also all of these flat earthers, they tell you to do it for yourself, right? So if
Yeah.
you suspected the credibility, you could have confirmed it for yourself. And to just say that you believe one side that doesn't have demonstrations, mind you, more than the other that does, simply because of their education or whatever diplomas or whatever they say that they have, is an appeal to authority.
You see the
Yeah.
techniques that they're trying to
Authority.
do here. They're trying to state it as
We're
a
trying to suss
fact.
out the evidence.
There is no evidence for the spherical Earth, when in reality that's not the case at all.
We haven't said
But
that. We're trying to
they're
find out
stating
what
it
evidence
as a fact.
has brought him.
And what I see,
Yeah.
Hamster, is this, because it looks to me like you're looking for authority to tell you what is and what isn't. So you're saying, well, I looked at
No,
these
I'm
flat
not.
earthers
Like
and they don't seem like an authority. So I look at these other guys and they seem like an authority. And what Percent is saying is what I was about to say. The same thing is well, what have these experts that you say you listen to? What have they done that you can repeat, demonstrate, and if not, then obviously is it not the same as just believing, like we just said, you went from flat Earth because of a bunch of ideas, and then back to the globe because of another bunch of ideas.
They just tried
Yeah.
to
You see how they're trying to
and do
convert
a
it to
straw
a
man to
bandwagon
defend
appeal
you.
to
No,
authority
no.
argument?
Look,
Wow.
Yeah.
we don't need to
It's
get
so
into all that.
defensive.
Look, I see what he's saying. Like, I get it. Like, it makes sense, right? It does. It even comes down to the same thing with when it comes to like religion. You know, technically, you're just believing what other people are telling you to believe. And like in a sense, he is right. You know, I haven't done any tests myself, so yes, in a sense, I would say that it is kind of like a faith-based kind of thing. But I also feel like, you know, many flat earthers are the same way. You know, like you're believing something, but no one's done the experiments yourself. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people are taking a position one side or the other without actually having seen or done anything themselves, other than just like, oh, I've seen this video, I'm believing what this person has told me to believe. And I would say that honestly, when it when I actually take a step back and look at it, it's not a place from authority. It's more of like a place from actual knowledge. You know what I mean? Like what I feel like a lot of the things I've heard from flat earthers, when I go back and listen to it, and then I listen to the exact opposite opinion, or like, you know, not technically opinion, like what people believe and what they've tested and stuff like that from like globers, like people who are traditional scientists in the sense of the word, you know, have gone to universities and stuff. They have a more actual understanding of what's going on. It's not like a half-baked idea because like a lot of flat earthers' ideas just seem kind of like they're half baked. Like you've just heard a bunch of snippets from science, like from like these flat earther, like the people who've actually gone out and done the laser test themselves, but they're not actually knowing what it is they're doing. They're just kind of like have this, like I said, half baked idea of science.
Again,
That's
I mean,
quick question there is, can you understand or clarify the difference between a belief and a fact?
Yeah, so a belief is something that you're just like thinking because, whatever it is you've experienced yourself or something like that, whatever you formed your opinion off of, basically. A fact is something that you can objectively prove and everyone else can like redo it and prove the same thing. Yeah. It's like provable
Just
fact
try and keep that
through
in mind when
experimentation.
engaging with these individuals, because they have
oh
this
yeah, we'll
habit
jump
of
all
trying
over
to
the
shift
fact if you
away
say
from
faith.
facts
Yeah.
and towards belief,
Try to cut
Yeah,
out
as
the
though
faith.
somehow facts are now
Yeah.
beliefs, which
Yeah,
is not
he's
at all
right.
correct.
He's right, because we'll jump all. I was just about to do that actually. So he gave you a good forewarning. I was about to say, "Oh, faith, you've got faith, and it's just a religion." So try to differentiate between religious ideas, which is faith, and between actual facts, meaning we can replicate, demonstrate, and obviously observe, repeat all those things, right?
But when I watch these videos of these flat Earth experiments that they're demonstrating, and you can redo yourself, there's very, 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 what is it? I would say, intelligent and knowledgeable explanations of why those things are actually not what they think they are, because it's
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I
said,
get
a
that.
lot
I
of
mean,
stuff
you're a
going
glober
on.
now. Don't panic. You don't have to defend the
No,
flat
I'm not
Earth
panicking.
anymore.
Like, you're fine. Yeah,
You don't
yeah,
have to, I'm
you're
just
fine.
thinking. I was just looking at how you transitioned from globe to flat and flat to globe and all that kind of stuff. So you've just said basically it's based on. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's based on it feels more. This is correct. It feels more reputable. It just feels like they know what they're doing. Again, nothing to
Well, yeah,
argue.
because,
More
like I
safe.
said,
It feels
just
more
looks
I've
safe.
never
that
done
way.
any experiments. I haven't done any experiments myself. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I know for a fact because it's something that I can test myself. It's more like I've watched these videos of other people testing things, and one side has more of a compelling argument, actually, when you look into it.
So how
He's not
can
saying that
how?
he believes people more, Chemo. He's saying that he has a group of people that have better knowledge and better explanations
Yeah.
and are more consistent.
Yeah.
That's what he's
Yeah.
talking
No,
about.
I understand
Exactly.
that.
It's
I
not
understand
pure
that.
belief.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that. I'm just thinking because you said you got kicked out 24/7, and I'm kind of trying to think why. What did you say, or what was the attitude like?
Well,
And it's
yeah,
like,
so the
if
reason-
hold on, so
the
if
reason why I
someone's,
know-
if someone has a belief, you're not going to change that person's belief because it's not based on facts. It's just what you feel, what you think. So obviously you're going to say now, well, it's not what I think, not what I feel. There are facts, and I'm obviously going to say, well, where are those facts? You're going to say, well, I feel they're out there. So it's going to be like a circular thing. So this is what we get down to.
It's not a feel out there. Like, I watch these videos of these people explaining everything that flat earthers believe and how those things don't actually add up and how they do not work when it comes to actual explanations and observations that you can make, using, traditional science. And like, they're way more consistent to what you can actually observe than what flat earthers say they are. And like, I feel, and not feel, okay, so yeah, you say feeling. Look, it's not that I feel this, it's this, that when you actually watch the flat earth videos.
No, I'm not
from, like,
talking about
different
flat Earth. You're defending flat Earth still a little bit. I'm saying you're a glober now. So that you've obviously seen globe experiments, measurements, evidence, whatever.
Yeah, videos.
You see how he's trying to turn this into a matter of belief rather than a matter of evidence? He wants you to disregard the
He's asking
evidence.
about the evidence, bro. He's trying
turn
to
it
take
into a
it away
matter
from
of
rhetoric, from just like,
Yeah, because I was going to say, we could
rhetoric
philosophize all
that's not
day, Hamster. We
substantiated.
could go into
Fine,
poetry
like,
all
okay.
day long, right? We could say, well, I
Go
think
to
that
the
flat
facts.
Earth is like
Yeah.
this, and I think
Flat
that the
earthers
globe has...
really enjoy facts and experiments.
Okay, so look, let's
so,
try and start somewhere easy. Give me one fact that we can verify about the globe. Not a feeling,
Have
one
you-
absolute fact.
Have you ever done the Eratosthenes experiment and measured the Earth?
Well, I'm asking Henton what about his transition. There must be
you
one
do that
fact, at
any day of the-
least,
any
that
day of the
he...
year.
that he knows or has experienced one fact, nothing to do with feelings, that has brought him back to the globe.
Yeah,
What is that
nothing to do with
fact?
feelings. Okay,
Precisely
so
what
let's
I'm
go ahead.
asking him. Has he ever done the Eratosthenes experiment and measured
No,
the size of the Earth? You can do it any day of the year.
I've never done any experiments, like I said. I have not.
No, I
done
didn't
any
ask. Okay, so
experiments,
but
just-
tell me
Would you
one
like to?
fact. Give me one fact, not feeling, that you brought you back to the
Okay,
globe.
one fact, not feeling. Okay, so the one fact.
Why does it have to be
based
just
off of
one fact?
scientific-
Why are
We
you
can start
pigeonholing them into
somewhere. We want to
defending
start
Relax,
this
he's
somewhere.
trying-
There are many
he's-
facts,
he's-
cowbells. I know
Why are you
this.
guys trying to hijack the conversation? He's asking
Look,
the dude
okay.
for one
Hey,
piece of evidence,
it's
his
okay,
best
look.
piece of evidence that brought him to the globe. It's not a hard
one- no
question.
one
It's
needs
not a
to get-
gotcha. Let him answer.
No one needs to get upset here. Look, we're just having a conversation.
The mic's really
Alright.
quiet, Hento.
Anyways, look, one fact,
Yes.
based off of experimentation that I have not done.
Whatever
but
you
just
want to do.
experimentation-
It is no
There's been
gotcha. Just
reference-
give me one fact
okay.
that brought you back to the globe.
Yeah, let him answer.
So the whole explanation that flat Earth has for not gravity, but for things falling back to the Earth, right? The video that I watched for flat Earth, they're using density and buoyancy as their terms of why things fall back to the Earth. But when you look into the scientific explanation for it, of modern science and stuff like that, it's due to gravity, right? And like flat earthers constantly say, oh, well, gravity is just a magical force that you can't prove, right? But then, like, you can prove it, because why are things all falling at the same rate when they come back to Earth? Like the 9.8 meters per second, right? Like, why is
They don't.
that the case? And like there was many other points. I mean, I would have to rewatch the video to give you exactly like the experiments that he like I said, I'm not like sitting here remembering every little experiment that has ever been done, so I can't like directly point to an exact experiment. But
All right, bro.
like the
What
video
if I told
watched
you
had more
this
detail than
9.8 meter per second squared isn't the speed that they all fall at the same rate that everything falls? That doesn't happen.
But it does. I mean, like
It
you can.
doesn't. It's
Like,
an agreed
there's
upon
still
average.
observable. Oh
No,
yeah,
it's
I mean
an agreed
it's
upon average. It's a
upon
convention.
value. I mean, I don't know.
All
about
right,
that
so
one.
now what you're
Well,
trying
that's
to do is
incorrect to
a bunch-
say it's an agreed upon average. It's an average
Yeah.
stemming out of multiple observations.
All right.
Okay,
I
but
mean,
it's
again,
not-
if this is a fact,
Everything doesn't fall at the same rate.
where is the
right?
experiment then to show
Like-
that this is a fact, Hento?
Yeah, see what he's doing is he's trying to now say that it is a consensus fallacy because we
That's
all
not what I'm
sat
saying
around
at
and
all. What the
watched
fuck is wrong with you, man?
and agreed upon 9.81 meters per second squared. Yet
I'm
you
saying
can
it's
measure
convention.
the specific gravity at any location on Earth.
Well, again, we're just
And
going
it's
to
not
find out
always
if
the average-
9.81. That's it.
we're just going to find out if he has a belief or if
The
he has
average.
facts. I mean, again, if it's just a
Hentai,
belief, it's very difficult to argue with someone who has a belief. But if he has the facts, well, then we can have a look at those facts.
Again,
no, it's
it's
not
trying to
difficult to argue,
translate
like,
it to a belief
on the-
rather than evidence.
Yo, Hentai, really quick. Nothing falls at the same rate unless it has the same exact surface area and density and in the same exact medium. Because
That's incorrect
there
as
is
well.
no perfect vacuum, and there's always going to be drag. So unless it has the same drag and same surface area and everything, that's the only time it's going to fall. at the
No,
same
that's
rate.
incorrect. It doesn't have to have
Mere
all the
vacuum.
exact same attributes.
All right, give me something with different drag or different surface area or density that'll fall at the same rate. Go ahead.
You see, here's your problem. You don't understand that they all fall at the same rate. However, the air resistance opposes that rate, and therefore
I know, and we
changes
always
the ultimate
always
rate.
have air resistance. There's no perfect vacuum, so they're always going to fall at different rates.
See, now you're
No, no,
trying
no.
to actually
Again-
malform to find what a perfect vacuum is.
There are no perfect vacuums. There's always going to be drag.
They're
That's
close
Okay,
enough.
still incorrect, and you know it.
How much difference will it make if you're at a 10 to the negative 9th value versus a 10 to the negative 17th
It
value?
doesn't matter
What's
if it's
the difference in
negligible.
the rate of
The
fall?
point is, if you increase the scale, there'll be
Okay,
much
so you
a
agree that
big
it's
difference.
negligible.
Let's
So
say
you agree
they're
it's
falling, a million light years or something. There's going to be
Where does
it's going to
that
be a
happen?
big difference.
In light years, That's a
Where does
distance.
that
It doesn't
happen?
matter. The point is, if you increase the scale, you're going to appreciate the difference because they're not
What's
falling at the same rate.
What's
And
the significance of that?
the significance is he thought that gravity, that the globe model was more correct because gravity says that they fall at the exact same rate.
And they
First
do.
of all,
So
They
that's
don't.
not entirely correct, and you know it.
Go ahead, Hentai. Explain your position.
First of all, you know that it's not hentai. It's actual facts
No.
being presented to you, and you
Hentai
want
is
to
saying
deflect
that
away from
gravity
it
says they
with your
fall at the
dross
same
and
rate, and they
nonsense
fall
like
at the same
usual.
rate. So
However, what is stated and what you're trying to attack is the actual inaccuracies of tolerance, of trying to
that's
stipulate
not what I'm
this
trying to
perfect
attack.
vacuum that you want to claim doesn't exist,
gravity
even though
makes
it
them fall
does
at the same
exist
rate.
in
They fall at
between
the same rate,
particles,
so globe
and you
model
know
is
this,
correct.
but you
Hey,
think that
guys.
he doesn't know this, and you're trying to attack information ignorance upon his part to try and disprove
No,
what
look,
he knows is
look,
factual.
I'll answer it. I'll answer it. Look. So go ahead and ask the question again. Go ahead.
No,
Oh, yeah,
answer
you
Hentai,
said
but
that. Go ahead.
guys, just try not
Well, I
to.
think they're trying,
Because everybody's
Kosher.
doing a bunch of it.
But it is
Kimo,
difficult
you're doing it too.
because
You're
we're
doing it
asking Hentel about the facts, and what's
Hentai.
happening is he's being defended. So it's showing the audience and us that he has a belief still not sure about the shape of the Earth because he's unable to present any facts.
Okay.
So we're going to ask him again, Hentel. So
Okay, so
let's
yeah, go
take a
ahead.
look at
My question.
the facts that brought you back. Various things that you said.
All right.
Um,
So,
go ahead.
Hentai,
So, yeah.
you hold up, Kimo. So, Hentai, you implied that the globe model was correct because the globe model says gravity makes things fall at the same rate, and they do fall at the same rate. Therefore, globe model is correct. But I've just told you right now that they don't fall at the same rate because we don't have a perfect vacuum. They're always going to fall at different rates due to, their surface area and the drag, right? Their
Yeah,
drag
the drag.
coefficient or what have you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the drag affects
that
the way things fall through the atmosphere, but in a vacuum they would fall at the same
No,
rate.
but a vacuum is just less air. There's still air. There's still drag. There is no perfect vacuum. You understand that,
But I mean,
right?
in the video they did show an experiment that like in a vacuum things do fall at the same rate though.
I know, and I'm telling you, like whatever video you saw, whether it was the BBC bowling ball and feather one, the only reason it seemed like they were falling at the same rate is because their technology wasn't accurate enough to show that they didn't. If they increased the scale, if it was twice the distance or 3 times the distance or whatever, you would appreciate because again there are no perfect vacuums, and even globe earthers would agree. You would appreciate that there would be drag.
No,
and they would
that's not
fall
correct
at
to say
different
that
rates.
either.
acceleration.
Yeah, it's insignificant.
It's insignificant in a short distance, but if you increase the distance, if you increase the scale, it'll be significant. You'll notice the disparity between these two objects that are falling.
So what's that proof?
It proves that they don't fall at the same rate, which is his premise for why the globe model was
No,
correct.
that is not
What
correct
does that prove?
whatsoever.
Anyways, Hentai, you get my point, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I mean like I said, the experiment that they showed was pretty compelling. I mean, not compelling. It was, more believable. I feel like
Was that
than
the
just
BBC
explaining,
one?
things fall because of density and buoyancy. Well, how do you prove that?
No,
you know?
Well, you
don't
could
jump
easily
to that
prove it.
yet. Was that the BBC one you were talking about? Things fall.
Yeah, the
Uh,
camera was there.
It might have been. I'll have to find the video again, and I'll tell you exactly. what
Okay,
it is.
so
Here, I'll
look, you got to
look for it.
understand, Hanto, science should be repeatable, right?
Yeah.
So if we saw talking about the BBC one, we should be able to replicate that at home, in a laboratory, at school, universities, whatever. Has that been replicated? Have you seen that experiment been replicated? Because what I have here are 4 or 5 experiments repeating this falling at the same rate. Now there are different types of vacuum chambers. We've got a really tall one. Check out the one that's long and tall, and you'll see yourself that they do not fall at the same rate. This is the BBC one. Look, so what Dr. Phil's posting is the BBC one done by Brian Cox. Yeah? So the question is that repeatable? You would say yes, of course. So I've just posted a video where there's 4 or 5, maybe 6, I can't quite remember, experiments trying to repeat Brian Cox's experiment in the vacuum there. Why did they all fail? Hentel. And can you find me a successful one that was repeated? Because everyone we've
Apollo
found,
15, hammer and a feather.
everyone we've seen so far, without the influence of somebody holding the device, when you just release the magnet like this, you drop it, they don't fall at the same rate. How do you explain this?
Where did you post these links?
I'll post it again
Trying to
for you.
find-
It's right here.
Are you Chemo? Are you the one who posted the
Yeah,
flat Earth
chemo. Yeah,
objects
that's it. Here we go.
falling?
Look,
Okay,
so
yeah.
Spurs chemo
Yeah, I'll open
debunks objects falling at the same rate. So we're
All right.
supposed
Well,
to
you
be able
guys,
to.
you guys go ahead and you can discuss with the other Glober in here while I'm watching this video. Is that?
So pay attention
all
to
right?
the long chamber one,
Yeah.
because that's the long one. You need a long, lengthy one. You see that the feather and the object are miles apart, and then the cameraman zooms out because he doesn't want anyone to notice and recognize. But have a look at that. It's about 10 minutes. Just skim through it and explain to me why you can't replicate the BBC falling at the same rate. I'll see you shortly.
And while you're at it, go ahead and have a look at the hammer and the feather drop on the moon from Apollo 15.
Oh, that's replicated in this video also on Earth. We can drop a hammer and a feather on Earth.
Yeah, I see his point here that it needs to be replicated on Earth by people. You know, I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, the moon one is not going to be. That's not as compelling as something that can be repeated on Earth. I'll give him that.
So anyway, the BBC, fair enough, that's the one that you see. We should be able to repeat it. Explain to me why no one on Earth has been able to repeat things falling at the same rate in a vacuum.
They have you
Because
lying.
that's an absolutely false claim. You
Well, then
just stated.
provide one. Let's
There's
take a look at
actual-
one.
Wait, hold on.
Additional
Wait,
factors to
hold on,
consider in
hold
these.
on,
Timestamp.
hold on,
Timestamp.
hold on,
Timestamp.
hold on. Okay, there is a actual lie in this video you just sent.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the videos I did see with the feather and dropping stuff like that, they literally took half the video and put it into their video just to make it look like they're right. The flat Earth video I'm talking about. So this is the actual full video right here of that feather of the feather dropping. Okay?
Which one? What do you mean? Hold on. Be clear.
Look. All right. So the video I just sent is
Oh,
the
right.
actual
Yeah. There's that one as well. Yeah.
Has been taken, and they only used the part of the video where it didn't work, because that half of the video where the guy was showing it that it doesn't fall at the same rate when there's air in the container. And then the second half of the video he shows that it doesn't, or that it does fall at the same rate when you make it a vacuum, because he made it a vacuum.
All right, let me explain
at the video
the
original.
All right, I get what you're
just linked
saying.
I just linked the timestamp of the flat Earth video where there's inconsistency.
We know about this. So the reason why there was a problem with the Action Lab one is because
he lied. No, the flat Earth video lied. The one you just said.
No. Let me explain it. Let me explain the flat Earth video.
Hold on.
It literally has a lie. Look at the timestamp of the flat Earth one that I just sent, the one you just sent to me, and then look at the video I just sent. They took a part of the one that was testing it to show that it's true and only cut the half that proves they're right. They left out the entire other half of the video where they show that in a vacuum, when he removes the air, they do fall at the same rate. He removed that and then put it into his video to say that he's right.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Here's a question.
Hold on a second, Cowboys. Hold on. I want to respond to him. Hold on. So, yes, in the Action Lab video, the problem is that they show the objects falling at the same rate in a time lapse. It's not in real time, Hentel, you see. And so what he did at the end of that video is he played the real-time version. If you go to the end of Action Lab, he does it without the time lapse. And that's what was taken out and slowed down to see if they fell at the same rate. So what you saw was a deception with the time-lapse one in Action Lab. As you can see, it flickers down. And then when you fast forward to the end of the Action Lab video in real time, and you can slow it down yourself without the aid of them manipulating it, you find that it does not fall at the same rate. So have a look at that one again, Action Lab, and ask yourself, why do they show it in a time-lapse? Why do they need to slow it down?
Forget about Action Lab. Why don't you look at any one of the dozens and dozens of
Hold
other
on a second. This is why we
videos
get all over the
on
place.
the internet.
Let him respond to that, because that was
No,
the point.
let's go ahead with the question
I
of
don't
how
see what
far
the-
away are we from addressing that this relative density or any evidence for stuff falling on the flat Earth model doesn't hold up, because that's actually just
Yeah, we can get to
further
that,
deflection
Cowbell.
away.
Guys, he really is. Kimo was asking the other guy a question.
Yeah, we can get to that. We're just saying to Hentai, look, the one you just posted now, right? So, at the end of this video that you've just posted, he plays... Yeah, so you've got the split screen. Yes, we know about this. This is in a time lapse, not in real time. Now, if you go to the end of the video...
It's just slow motion.
No, time lapse. No. They've manipulated that to deceive you, Hentai. Now, if you go to the...
How do I know that your video hasn't been?
Because I just said to you. I just said if you
because
go...
you only cut out half of the video. And
I
then
just said
put
to
what
you. Well, try to listen.
proves your point.
Try
and
to
then
listen.
said fail afterwards.
If you go to the end of the Action Lab video, your video from Action Lab, slow it down yourself. It's in real time, and explain why they don't fall at the same rate.
It's a slow motion
Kimo,
video. It's not.
if you
No, you're not
didn't slow
listening.
it
You're not
down-
listening. You're not listening. So the timestamp you
Kimo,
showed was in
so
slow
let me go back
motion.
to the. Yeah.
So I'm not talking about that. I'm saying to you, go to the end of Action Lab's video where he does the experiment in real time.
Yeah, I have that right.
Right.
Here. I'm looking at it right
That's
now.
the part. That part there. That part there is what's in the video. The real time observation, not manipulated time lapse.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
why? So explain then why in real time does it not fall at the same rate?
Is trying to prove, and that is that it's
But they
density.
do.
But
You look at the real time; they do fall at the same
Well,
rate.
that's
They're
what's
right
in-
next to each other.
That's what's in the video where when it's slowed down yourself. Slow it down yourself.
No. You're watching the actual real time one. They're falling at the same rate. Like, what are you talking about?
Take a screenshot of where it falls at the same rate. Take a screenshot.
You see how he's trying? You see how he's trying to
Take a
manipulate the
screenshot
data?
of movement.
Yeah,
Dude,
slow
how
it
do
down
you-
yourself, Hentor. Take a screenshot of where they fall at the same rate in Action
And
Lab
then
at
take
the
a
end.
screenshot that shows movement.
Spurs, maybe you could give us a timestamp.
2 minutes,
He's trying
3
very
seconds,
hard
2
to
minutes.
raise a question about this with a tiny.
Slow it down
frog-shaped
yourself there, Hentor. At 2 minutes, take a screenshot and show me where they fall at the same rate. See, this is where you've been deceived, you see. They showed you the time-lapse one in the middle of the video, and you were like, oh, look, it falls at the same rate. Of course, because they deceived you. But at the end
They
of the...
being you, Kimo.
At the
So
end
let's
of the
get back to
video,
the
when he shows
actual
you in real
discussion,
time,
which is defend.
slow it
your
down
position,
yourself without the
not deflect
manipulation.
to somebody else.
Aha, look, I'll take a screenshot for you if you can't do it yourself. And I'll show you that in real time. The thing, so go to 2 minutes, 7 seconds, pause, slow it down, screenshot.
Continuously.
Explain to me, Hental,
over and try and prevent
why
it
in real time
coming
it
out.
does not fall at the same rate.
It's all a distraction.
Hental,
So
did you
what
slow it?
disproves relative density or whatever he provides as an explanation for things falling?
No.
Like, the
Hental
only-
said that that flat Earth video was a lie because they showed something else, and I'm saying that was the end of Action Lab's video where they showed it in
Yeah, but
real.
You're slowing the video down like so much and just
Mhm.
taking one little snippet of it. But if you watch it in real time, why are they falling at the same rate?
Well, slow it
Like
down.
yeah, I can slow down a bunch of videos on YouTube and see things that aren't necessarily there because of whatever is going on with the camera. But if you watch it at normal speed, why are they ending up on the fucking bottom of the little container at the same exact time?
At the same.
You're literally slowing it down, taking a screenshot in mid-air when they're like a little bit different.
No,
Like, I don't
one
understand.
of them hits the floor before the other. You said they hit the floor at the same time. I've got a screenshot here right now of you lying, deceiving. I don't know what your game is because
It's not lying or deceiving. Your video.
well,
is a
look
lie.
right
You're
here. Look at
literally
this
taking
picture.
half the video.
Have a look at this picture. Are they hitting the floor at the same time?
No,
Because you've slowed it down and taken a screenshot. Like, you don't understand how the slowing.
No, I paused it.
down
I
function
paused
works
it
on
at
YouTube?
2 minutes.
Have you ever done?
No slowing down. I just
Emo.
paused it at 2 minutes 7 seconds and took a screenshot. Why isn't that falling at the same rate? Why did you lie?
I could take. Okay, let me take another screenshot and show you why I could just disprove what you're saying just based off of a screenshot. I'm saying screenshots don't count as evidence.
No,
because
you said they
can
fall at the same rate.
take it at any. They do.
So why
Have
is
you not-
one?
you're
Why
not
is
watching
one
the
hitting the
video
floor
yourself?
before the other?
Yeah,
Because
Kimo,
you've taken
what
a
was the
screenshot to prove your point.
I've taken a screenshot
why.
means that one hit the floor before the
can
other.
I put the word in? Huh? I have a question, Kimo. What was the purpose?
Because
of
Hentel
the normal
lied.
speed?
He said they
What was
they
the
hit the
purpose?
floor at the same time. We can see in this screenshot
Kimo,
here that they
Kimo,
do not fall
what
at the
was
same
the-
rate.
Kimo,
Why would you?
what
Why
was
would
the
you
purpose
lie?
of
Why
the
would you
normal
lie?
speed?
Spurs
No,
you
you
realise
hear me?
one's a feather and one's a block.
Do you
of
hear me?
steel.
Exactly was. That's the point. Why would they fall at the
That's
same
the
rate?
point.
Duh.
Why are they so close together?
Why are they not falling together at the same rate?
Well, shouldn't the feather be miles behind?
According to Hentel, they fall at the same rate, where we can see one hits the ground before the other. He lied.
We do.
Wait, hold on. Wait. All of this.
Because you saw the light.
Yeah. Okay, I get that screenshot. You can keep reposting
Yeah.
it all
Why
you want.
is
Look,
the
I
why
get
is
it.
the feather
Okay.
above the metal object?
Spurs, you got to let me answer.
Why aren't the things just organizing themselves according to density? If this is a vacuum and there's no drag, why aren't
First of all, let's clear
is
up
the
this
feather
lie.
all the way up in the top?
You first of all said that flyer video
Like,
was
it
a
doesn't
lie.
make any sense.
Then you said Action Lab video was the truth. I've shown you that they're lying. Now you're supporting
They're
the lie.
not
Why?
lying. They're not
What's
lying.
the
though.
difference between dropping them in air and dropping them in a
So,
vacuum?
can you then show me objects falling at the same rate in a vacuum without time lapse in real time?
If you watch the real, that's the thing is you're saying watch the real time. You didn't even watch the real time. You slowed it down.
No,
You
that's
didn't
in real
watch the
time. You
real-time
just
video.
pause
You're
it.
slowing it down to 0.25 speed and saying, "Oh, look at the screenshot. Look, they didn't hit at the same exact time. So look, gravity's not real."
Why
But
didn't they hit at the
reality,
same?
they
Why did you lie
fall.
then?
I didn't lie.
You said they fall at the same rate at the same time. They hit the floor at
They
the same
do
time.
fall. They do fall at the same rate.
So why then
If
does
you
the
watch
metal
it in
object
full
hit
speed, it
first?
looks like they're hitting at the same exact time.
So why is
Shouldn't
the
the
feather?
feather be way behind it, like the other guy said? That doesn't make any sense. Like you're literally slowing it down as slow as you can get it and saying, "Look, see." But then it disproves what you're saying about what keeps everything up or down by
Yeah,
saying,
but first
"Oh,
of all,
density
we've
and
got the
buoyancy,"
feather
but yet
in the
they're not
air.
even.
Can you see that
They're not
image
even
then?
doing what they would do according to what you say keeps everything up and down.
The feather is in the air. The metal object's on the
What's more
ground.
believable? What's more believable?
No, but why did you lie about things falling at the same rate?
I didn't lie. Your video lies. You literally took half the video and said, "Look, see," but you didn't show anything else going on with the video.
Yeah, because that's you want to show the
It said
time lapse
fail.
footage. Is that how we see
It's
the
not
real world in
time-lapse,
time
it's
lapse?
It's slow motion. The camera can pick up
Okay,
everything
fine. So
that's
things
going
fall
on.
at the same rate only in time lapse.
I mean, you're acting like he only did it one time.
I'm
and then
asking you, do
videotaped
things
that one
only
time
fall
of
at the
it
same
falling.
rate in time lapse?
No, they don't.
So do they
He
fall at the same rate
obviously-
in real
look,
time?
Look, I would say that the reason why the
Mhm.
block didn't fall exactly at the same speed
Mhm.
as the feather in this last thing is maybe because there's a leak in the container and maybe it wasn't completely a vacuum in this certain instance of him dropping
It's
the
never
object.
completely a vacuum.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that there's different factors that could have factored into why they didn't fall at the same exact rate in this
But you said they do.
last clip that you are showing.
You said they do.
But they do if you look at
Well,
the
then
slow motion one they did, which was obviously a different time.
In
when you
time
dropped
lapse,
the
they do.
stuff
Yes,
together.
we get that manipulated video. They
Okay.
fall at the same rate. So what?
If
What
you
about
look
in
at
real
the,
time?
if you look at the video where he showed where they were falling with air, they're completely different falling.
What about
rates.
this
You can
other
see that.
vacuum? Why don't they fall at the same rate? This one, a longer tube. Why is the feather behind the metal
Hold on.
This
object?
literally
Hold on,
looks
just
like some
drive-
guy. This literally
hold on,
looks
just
like some
drive
guy
the
just
point
took
home.
a drive the point home. What do you mean?
Hentai, you're right. In air, they fall at completely different rates.
Yeah, they fall at completely different rates, and then when
Yeah,
you put
I'm
the
with you.
vacuum on it,
Hold
they
up,
fell
hold up.
at
And in
they
the
fell
vacuum,
at almost the same rate. And
I know.
yeah,
One second.
I mean,
though.
like,
One
what-
second. Why is it a vacuum? Because they get rid of some of the air,
Yeah.
right? It's not a perfect vacuum. They
It's not
don't
a
get rid of
perfect.
all
Yeah,
of
he
the
can't
air.
get rid of all of it because of his
Yeah,
little
so as you're
experiment
getting rid
setup.
of the air, you're getting rid of the density, right? You're getting rid of the matter basically of the air there. So there's going to be
Yeah.
less drag,
Yeah, no
right?
drag.
But because they're not getting rid of all of the air, there's always going to be some drag. And
Yeah, there's
drag,
going to be
there's
a
something
little
called the
bit of
drag
drag.
to weight ratio, right? So there's always going to be a difference in speed because of the fact that there is drag. And if you could even show this in like in water, water is even more dense. Drop two things in water, you'll like as long as they sink, and you'll see that they sink at different rates. In air, they'll do it at different rates. In less air, which is what a vacuum is, because again,
Yeah.
there is no perfect vacuum, absolutely zero perfect vacuums.
Yeah.
It's still going to fall at different rates. It's just going to be harder to perceive. It's easier to perceive with more matter, harder to perceive with less matter. You
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I'm
Let
picking
me
up
just
everything
a
you're talking
second
about.
here. Give me just a second here. You notice the technique of the flat Earth. You notice how first they
Truth.
maintain that there's no such thing as a perfect vacuum. Yet
Are you saying
by
there is a
claiming-
perfect vacuum, Dr. Bob?
Yet by claiming that these things should be exactly the same, they are implying it has to be a perfect vacuum because they're
What?
discounting the fact it's a partially, it's not a complete vacuum because there's still some air in there. But
that
they
make
want
sense
it to
to you?
behave as if it's a perfect vacuum because it suits their argument. That's the moving of the goalposts that are pretty classic in flat Earth.
What are you talking? You're not even making sense. We're saying that it wouldn't be at the same rate, not that it would be at the same rate. And are you saying that there's a perfect vacuum, Dr. Bob?
I'm saying
Actually, there is. The space in between particles is a perfect vacuum.
Sure.
And
Look.
Hentai brought up a good point.
But Handel,
It
look, you
looks
see the
like
problem
these-
now that you said you had the facts. We've just shown you that things do
Was I
not
talking,
fall
Timo?
unless they're in time lapse, which is we don't live in time lapse world. So
Yeah, but it's not time lapse. It could have just been a different instance of this guy dropping objects
Fair
because
enough,
he's
fine,
obviously
nice
not going to
excuse.
do it one time.
Do we
He's
have a
going to do
video
it
without
multiple times
excuse?
to test it.
do we have a video that's without excuse, that's in real time at the same rate?
No, but we have two videos within the same one, obviously different instances of him dropping things, and one is in slow motion and one is in YouTube slow motion as you watch it. You know, because I mean, which one is more credible, the YouTube slow motion or the actual camera slow motion that he's done?
So you're saying the Action Lab one in real time falls at the same rate, yeah?
They look like they're falling at the same rate, but
Okay,
they're
that's
falling
fine.
at
So, okay, let's
close
not argue.
to the
Can you
same
just
rate.
give me the facts? Can you give me the facts and take a screenshot of those objects in real time falling at the same rate?
I'm saying that they're falling close to
I
the
know,
same rate
I'm
because,
just
like
saying,
the other
can you
guy
take
just
us-
said,
I know.
like the other guy just said, who is a flat earther, said that there is some drag in there, which he's
Yeah, but
correct.
I'm not
there probably
arguing
is some
about
drag
that.
in there
You're
because it's not
saying
a
that that
perfect
video
vacuum.
is proof of things falling at the same rate when it's in time lapse, yeah?
Not time. Like you keep saying time lapse, but it's slow motion. Like I don't.
Yeah,
you're the one who's
did the
lying
slow
right
motion,
now.
yeah, that's edited.
Yeah, I mean, if I can say, if somebody's going to say somebody's lying, I mean, you keep saying time lapse. It's not time lapse.
Well,
Have you
it's
seen
edited,
a time lapse video?
edited. Let's say
It's not-
edited.
Yeah, but I mean, like you could say the same thing about you taking the screenshot.
Why are you lying,
That's an-
Spurs? It's not time lapse.
That's an
That's why I'm
edited
asking you.
video.
That's what I'm
Oh, you're
saying to
slowing it
you.
down.
That's why I'm asking you to take a screenshot of when they fall at the same rate.
I just told you that they're not falling at the same rate. That there is some drag because of whatever reason.
Good.
Who knows
Let's move
what
forward now then.
variable?
Okay, let's not.
Yeah, let's
dwindle.
let's move forward on to the next thing. Let's move on forward to the next thing.
No,
that
hold on.
also
hold
pertains
on.
to this.
So are you
What
conceding?
point of this experiment proves that density and buoyancy is keeping everything up or down?
No, we can get to that.
No, go ahead. No,
concede
you
then
answer
that
me
you
about
don't-
that.
you
You
do
keep
not have the
asking me so many
facts?
questions. Now it's my turn to ask you a question.
Yes,
At
but
what
are you
point in this shows that density and buoyancy is what keeps everything up or down and not gravity, this magical force that you claim doesn't exist, that has, this averaged rate of falling,
Okay, so what do you want to
is
know
keeping
about?
everything up
Okay,
or
let's
down?
do it. What do you want to know about relative density?
So why is the feather, since it's obviously less dense than this giant, or like the little cube that's there, why is it not just up at the top and the cube's down at the bottom? What's affecting those
why
things?
would it be?
Well, you're saying that everything, you know, falls based off of their density. So why is the way dense object like in the
You
same
see,
spot as the
yes,
feather?
yes, I see the problem here. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
understand relative density disequilibrium, right? Full time.
No, go ahead, explain it.
Yeah, so if we want the feather, you said, why doesn't the feather go up? You want the feather to go up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in
why is
order
it
to
not
do
up?
that, we have to change the medium that the feather is in. That was favorable to helping it push it up or move it up. You see?
Yeah.
So the
Do you
medium,
have
the
a
medium that
video
it's
or
in.
experiment to show that this is the case?
Yeah, I've even never seen the apple float.
Yeah, go ahead, show it.
You
Show
never
the
bobbed apples.
experiment.
You've never been bobbing apples before.
Yeah, I've done bobbing apples when I
Right,
was
so
a
why
kid.
are those apples floating? Why do they go down to the bottom of the barrel?
I mean, it's the same reason why do humans float in water. I mean, you're saying that. I mean, like what? That doesn't make any sense. I mean,
No, you're
like,
just
go ahead,
answering it
show it.
yourself.
Show
The
no,
apple,
show the
Question.
video.
the apple's
Show the
falling
video,
from the
show the
tree,
experiment.
lands in a barrel of water. Why doesn't it continue going
Question to
down to the
Chemo.
center of mass?
Have you ever observed something floating in the same medium?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking is like, because you're talking about water, it's completely different than our air.
Exactly, it's relative density disequilibrium. So the medium that it's in.
Bro, you really want to say that when there's actual videos of things floating in the same medium?
I'll give you an example. I'll get to you there, Carbaz. I'll give you an example, Hentel. So an egg, we can put an egg in a cup of water. The egg will sink. Now, if we change the density of the water, we can have the egg rise. So we can control our independent variable and have the egg rise or fall or go in any direction depending on the.
Look, I can sit here and listen to the way you say things all day, or you can just produce a video that, you know, shows the experiment. Like, I would much rather see somebody doing the experiment and explaining the steps that they're going through, because
I've actually got one.
You've never seen that
I
before?
think you should Google henchai hamster.
You've never seen that before? The egg density egg.
But Chemo, why are you running away from addressing that objects can float without changing the medium?
Yeah, I mean, helium balloons, right? How does that work?
No, that's not all what I'm referencing.
What are you referencing? I want to know.
Chemo, do you understand that question or not?
What does
Wait,
it mean,
what floats in air without changing? I would like to know.
I'd like to know as well.
So Chemo doesn't know. Go ahead and look up videos of ultrasonic levitation. The same medium, and objects will typically float.
Ultrasonic levitation sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, but we know the cause to that. We're looking for the cause of
No,
things
that
falling.
disproves what you're presenting, as it is based upon the actual density and the medium.
I
We
don't
know the
get
cause
what-
of floating too in salt water. So what's your point?
Yeah,
This
so
ultrasonionic levitation thing that you're talking about, like the salt when you're like it's on speaker and it's kind of floating and stuff.
Eggs floating in
The
salt
point
water.
is, it disproves you all trying to claim that it's based upon density.
No, we're talking about direction.
No, that's exactly it. You all are not trying to defend your position. You're
Hold
trying
up.
to deflect
So when
and run away.
When you have sound, which is literally, you know, the propagation through matter, you're saying that that's not changing the medium at all?
No, it's changing
Not under what you tried to stipulate about variances and tolerances with your notion of there's no perfect vacuum to disprove a minute vacuum.
It does cause immediate pressure zones in the medium.
And this all just goes to like what I was saying, is that a lot of flat earthers don't have actual scientific expertise on anything, so they don't really know anything other than just, I mean, like,
Yeah, they only have their little script thing, and they try to stick to that. Because a further thing that disproves they're trying to hedge away from ultrasonic levitation is magnetic levitation or electric levitation.
Yeah, both them.
What on earth?
Like,
Back to the drawing board, Gimo.
dishonestly trying to say that
I don't
there's
know
no
what he's on
change
about.
in the
Oh,
medium.
very correct. Exactly. What on earth?
All right, can we get back to the subject now?
We're not saying
Yeah,
that
the subject
you can't
is
have
you
other
all
forces.
trying to defend what you present for the explanation of things falling down.
Caboose,
First of
you
all, we've
weirdo. We're not
debunked.
saying that the only thing that affects whether or not things are floating, falling, or rising is relative density. No, it could be counteracted. It could be, overpowered. There are other forces in play. So I don't know why you're trying to say that there's nothing else that can possibly move something.
No, you're the one trying to say that there's nothing else with your whole dross
We
about,
never once
stuff
said that.
experiences drag,
A
and
helium
that
balloon floats,
influences
but if I
as it turns
grab the
back to what
string
it is.
and pull it down, then it's gonna sink.
I've never,
What's your fucking
ever
point?
stated that it's only one thing. It's the culmination of forces. I've
You're
done
trying
this
to make it
multiple
seem
times
like we're saying
because
it's
that's
only
what
relative
No,
density.
you are. You are trying
never
to
once
say
said
there's
that.
just one
That's
thing.
exactly what he's
And you're
trying
not
to tell you,
defending
man.
your position.
Wow.
No, that's what he's trying to tell you.
Your cope is next level.
I just
Kevin.
want to see a video of this relative density proving like a flat Earth video of them proving that relative density, what you guys were saying is what causes things to fall or rise. I just want to see this video that you guys have, like an
It's
actual
one, I
experiment
think
of
he's
that.
saying it's one thing that causes things to rise and fall. One of the things, I think.
One of the things.
And the other guy keeps trying to strawman him into saying that,
I just feel like
it's the only
so,
way things rise and fall. And I don't think percentage or whatever his name is saying that, just to be fair.
I mean,
Not
it
at
seems to me from observations, things move because of forces on them, right? Like if a car is going to move, the only way it can move is by the force driving it from an engine, turning the wheels running across the ground, the forces that move things. Like I'm not going to just be able, like what moves my arm, right? The force that I'm putting upon it with my muscles and my everything. So I just find it hard to believe without an actual experiment or video,
there's tons
explaining
of
why density, which is not a force, it's just like what is it again? What is density?
hentai. There's tons of things you can do. Chemo mentioned like the egg in a cup.
Yeah, and that's why I want to see an actual scientist doing these experiments and then see what their results are. Like that would
but
be
there's
more
stuff
credible
that
to me than just
you've
him
done
saying.
yourself. I guarantee that you haven't even it just hasn't clicked yet. Like for instance, let's say you were swimming and you were floating in the water, and then you you exhaled.
Yeah.
And you noticed that you sank a little bit because you exhaled, and then you had a big breath and you held it, and you noticed that you were floating more. Right there, you're just regulating your density because the air is less dense, and it's as like a flotation device, it's keeping you up, and then you exhale, you're becoming more dense, and you're falling in the water. That's like there's so many examples that you could think of. Helium balloons, when you let out a little bit of the air and let a little bit of the helium out and you put a little bit of air in, you'll notice that it floats in the spot. It doesn't rise, it doesn't fall because you're regulating the density of the air inside with the helium to be the same as the air outside.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
According to the relative density disequilibrium model, what causes weight?
Well, that would be
Weight is
disequilibrium.
Hang on. Actually, no. Can I talk to percentage on this one?
Yeah, I can answer it my way. So weight would be it's a convention, first off. It's not like anything, it's based off of something real, but it's the convention of, number one, the mass, which is the number we attribute to its matter, and the acceleration, which is this easy number that we have for the rate that it falls. If you want to get its truer weight, I would say you can actually measure the rate that it's falling and then multiply that by its mass. And if you want to get the truest rate, you would have less of a convention with matter. You would be able to actually measure the matter of the molecules or what have you, and multiply the rate that it's falling that you've measured, not the agreed upon average, with the matter to get the true weight.
That's our
What molecules?
Hang
Where do
on
you get
just-
molecules from?
Can you
Particles.
Just
All right.
Sorry. Look, you've just repeated our model. Weight is mass times acceleration.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but this
asked
doesn't have
you-
to do with any model. This goes for both models, in my opinion. It's something
Relative
that's
density.
outside the scope of globe versus flat Earth.
Do you believe in
Not really, no.
Do you believe in relative density disequilibrium as why some
Yes.
things go up, some things go down? Percentage?
Yeah.
Do you believe that one of the causes of things going up or down in different things going up or down is relative density disequilibrium?
Of course.
Well, why, when I asked you what the cause of weight was in relative density disequilibrium, you said it was force times acceleration, and you made no
'Cause it
mention
is.
of. What's the force then?
It's not force times acceleration, it's mass times acceleration. The force is the weight.
Sorry, mass times acceleration. I misspoke. You know what I mean, right? What's the force then? See,
The force
our
would
version-
be
our
the amount
version-
of force, the amount of work that it generates or what have you going in whatever direction it goes. It doesn't have to be going down. It could be
What's
going up,
causing the
for
force?
instance.
Our explanation for the force is gravity. What's your you don't believe in gravity, so what's your explanation for the force?
Again, it's a convention. It's a
I
convention
don't-
wherein we decided that the rate that it's going in whatever direction multiplied by the matter is, this force.
So things going up or down have nothing to do with relative density disequilibrium. Then.
No, it
It's some
does, definitely. But
it's
you
some
can measure
mysterious-
it. You can measure the force that the object has, and that's the weight,
Is
if
it
you
mass
will.
times acceleration or is it relative density disequilibrium? I'm completely
The
confused.
acceleration, the speed at which it's falling, is an agreed upon average. If you want to get a truer one, you would actually measure the rate at which it falls, which is governed, it's dictated by the density of the object versus the medium.
You've cherry-picked science and applied it to what science isn't.
Hang on.
In
Okay.
your opinion.
Can you just say the
No,
last two
in
sentences?
fact.
Give me a
So
second.
the A part, right? If we want to get a true rate of fall or rise or what have you, you would actually measure it. And the speed at which it falls or rises is dictated by the density of the object versus the medium. As simple, hold up.
You're measuring
So as a way to simplify it, we've just said that it's 9.8 meters per second squared for whatever, just to, as convention to make it easy.
Can I
But-
just
No,
get
it's
the end
not
of
a convention. It's a measurement.
It is a convention. It's absolutely
It's a
convention.
measurement. And you know it. You just stated that it has to be a measurement.
Can I just get to the end of my point, please? I'm
Bro,
almost
it's a
finished.
convention that 1 centimeter is 1 centimeter.
Go ahead, Adric. Get to your point.
I'm almost done.
Yeah, go.
We have to close the loop and everyone jumps in. All right. Percentage. I have two objects. They're both in the same medium of air. They're both made of exactly the identical substance, and they both have exactly the same density. One of them is bigger than the other. Why does the bigger one weigh more?
Drag to weight ratio.
What? So, say that again.
Drag to weight
It's not-
ratio. Oh, it does. I wouldn't say it would actually weigh more. I mean, it would weigh more because it has more matter, right?
Yeah,
But
no,
it would
you
fall
do it-
also fall faster over time because of its
No, no,
drag to weight
let-
ratio.
No. Let's not talk about falling. Let's not talk about drag. We've got objects and we're putting them on a set of scales, right? They're
Mhm.
still subjected to the downward force because in our model, what we read as weight on a set of scales is the downward acceleration and the mass, right? Weight in our model is mass times acceleration.
Yeah,
which
the question is, why does it weigh more? Because it has more matter.
I want to know what your cause of it is. How does relative density disequilibrium explain two objects that have precisely the same density and precisely the same relationship between their density and the density of the air? How do they weigh more?
I've
If it's all
answered this
mean-
already. So
if it's
the relative
all- if it's all-
density aspect comes into the play of A. F equals ma. A is the rate at which it's falling or rising. That's what involves relative density.
I'm not talking about
there's-
acceleration.
I know.
Give me
The other part
just
is
a
m,
second. We're not
right?
moving.
Mass
They're
or
on
matter.
different
So the
They're
bigger
on
the ball,
different
the equal the
They're on
density it's going to be, but the bigger the ball, the more matter. So it's going to have more force.
Yeah, but what is
It's also going to displace more air.
You haven't told me what the force is yet. Our
What do
force
you
is
mean,
gravity.
bro?
What's your? You're saying it's force times mass, right? What is your force? It can't be gravity. That's ours. What's the force?
Gravity isn't a force,
No,
according to
what
your
is
model.
What is the force on your model then?
What do you mean? It's just the force that the object generates, right? It's
What,
the,
it's the
the capacity to do work for that object.
Is it Star Wars? Does it use that force? What's the force? You can't just. You can't.
What do you mean? Why does the force have to have a name? It's the force that the object generates.
You're choosing not to give it a name and be incredibly vague about it.
Do you want me to make up a name? I can make up a name.
Can you stop interrupting?
You're doing it too, mate.
You can't identify it. So you've called
What
it.
do you mean? I just told you what it is. I can make up a name to go along with it if you want.
What is it then? What is it?
The kinetic force of the object, or objectual. It doesn't really matter what it is. Like what the name is. I've explained what it does, what it is. So I don't know why you need an actual name.
If you can't describe the cause of it, it's not real. Just like you saying we can't describe the specific cause of gravity, therefore gravity doesn't exist. You can't describe the specific cause of this unnamed and uncalculable force that you have.
You said it was kinetic. How does it then have a force while it's sitting still on a set of scales in the kitchen?
Wait, hold up. Isn't
You said it was
inertial
kinetic, but it
force
still
the
has
one that's
force
proportional to the
standing
mass?
still. What?
I said, isn't inertial force the one that's proportional to the mass of the thing?
So it's not kinetic.
Anyways, let's just say it's object force. Okay, that's what it's called.
What's the cause of it?
The cause is the object.
No, it's not. An object
Yes,
sitting
it's
still.
the mass and the acceleration
object-
of the object in whatever medium it is.
Are you saying an object sitting still creates its own force?
Why would it be sitting still?
Objects sometimes. Are you now denying that things sit still? Things
They're
sit
only
still.
sitting still because they're being impeded by something else, right?
You understand enough of Newton that objects sit still unless you apply a force to them, right? You need
Sitting
to
still depends on the medium that they're in.
You need to externally apply a force to make something change from at rest to moving.
Why?
It must be an external force. Mr. Newton
Why does it
said
need to
so.
be external?
Because an
that's
apple
the
doesn't.
way it works.
Couldn't it just be something like dictated by the medium that it's in?
No, it can be in a vacuum. It can be in no medium.
Listen, you have force equals ma, right? So if it's in a medium where the a is such that it's not moving, the force of it will be zero. If the a is zero, the force will be zero. But if it's in a medium where it'll fall at a rate of x or whatever, the acceleration is whatever it is, then it's going to have the force that's proportional to that. So of course it matters what medium it's in.
How do these objects generate the force that you mentioned before?
Magic.
It's just the potential force that they have.
Yeah, what does that mean?
If you're saying that objects standing still have no force, then why does a stationary object sitting on a set of scales?
There's a difference between standing still and being, floating in its position or staying in its position. And an object that's just still because it's on a table or on a scale or whatever, if you take that away, it'll fall. It has a rate of fall. It's just physically impeded at that time. And that's the force that we're able to measure. That's different than if it's in a medium where it floats, right? Where it's buoyant and it's floating in space and it has no acceleration. That's very different.
There is a downward force on the scales which registers as newtons or grams. Does it matter that the object's sitting still?
It very much matters.
Said that an object. You said that an object standing still has no force.
Adric, you're cutting in and out. But let's just let me just say it like this. Imagine you have a helium balloon, right? And it's going up.
No, pick something else.
No, hold up. This you can easily.
No, seriously, pick something else for your example.
You have a helium balloon going up. You can measure the force
pick
that
something
it's going
else
up
because you know that that's actually part of your scripted nonsense. Pick something else.
Bro, relax, man. So because the acceleration is positive, it's going up, right? You can measure the force like that. You have a balloon that's going down.
No, that's not right. It's actually the culmination of forces. is
half
what actually
helium,
causes it to
you could
accelerate upward.
measure the force of that, which would be 0 if it's floating where it is.
Do you have any clue what buoyancy is?
Of course.
Okay, what's buoyancy?
Buoyancy is the tendency for things to, stay up.
What causes buoyancy?
That
Is it the density between the two objects related to how much of one object is displaced by the other times the acceleration acting on the system?
Well, density has to do with fluid
Yep,
volume,
being
right?
accurate. Sorry, go ahead, Hentai.
Buoyancy has to do with fluid. Like, you can't have buoyancy without fluid.
Not true.
You can have buoyancy with gas as well.
Oh, gas
Specifically,
buoyancy.
Yeah,
an example,
air is a fluid.
air.
It's considered a fluid.
You see, you keep repeating this script without having any clue as to what it actually implies. You talk about force equals mass times acceleration, but you don't understand the implications of that.
So, how do I not understand it? What have I said that was incorrect?
All right, if an object has weight, do you agree that it is an acceleration is acting on the mass of the object?
Yes, there is an acceleration.
Great. What's the acceleration?
The acceleration is the speed that it's falling in the medium that it's in, or that it's rising in the medium that it's in.
Okay, the acceleration is an external force or an internal force?
The acceleration is determined by the object and the medium. It's relative density disequilibrium.
External force or an internally generated force? Is it an inherent property of matter to have a set acceleration? If so, what is it and in what direction? What's the vector?
It's both. It's both internal due to the density of the object, but it's also external due to the density of the medium that the object is in.
Did you ever take physics in school?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Did you pass it?
Of course.
Okay, then why don't you understand something as basic as this?
I'm understanding it fine, and you're the one that's having problems with my answers. Again, I told you it's both internal and external because it both depends on the object and the medium. The medium is external of the object is internal.
It has nothing to do with the medium.
It does have to do with the medium because, again, you take that same object and put it in a different medium, it could change whether the acceleration. You take that same object, put it in a medium where it doesn't accelerate at all, and it's remaining floating in place, the acceleration is 0.
Stop over talking with bullshit. The acceleration acting on a force does not change based on the medium. The resistance opposing the acceleration acting on the force does.
The acceleration doesn't act on the force. The acceleration doesn't act on the force. The force
I said act on the object. It's a balance of all the applied forces to an object, to include the force of gravity versus the force of air resistance. That's just one example. But helium balloons float because they are being pushed up by the air, which has more force pulling it downward than the force acting on the helium, because the mass is different. And as a result, the denser air falls and pushes the helium balloon upward. If you put it in a vacuum, the helium balloon falls because you don't have that dense air pushing it up.
That's not necessarily true.
That's exactly true.
It depends on the density of the vacuum chamber that you put it in, the air that you put it in.
Negative.
Stop trying to make ad hoc excuses when I take you off your script.
I'm not. You haven't shown anything that's like straying away from relative density. You've just actually admitted that it's the density of the air that's and the helium balloon is displacing it, and that's why it's rising. So you're agreeing that the helium balloon is less dense than the air, and that's why it's more buoyant going up.
No, it's being pushed up by the air, which has greater force downward than the helium balloon. And as a result, it's displacing the helium balloon upward. You can do the same thing with the helium balloon. No,
or you
I
could
don't
say that it's being pulled up, right?
No.
The helium balloon is being pulled up, and as a result, the air is being pushed down.
Okay. You have a basic misunderstanding of the physics.
You have a basic misunderstanding that you have a bias. You have a bias.
Stop over-talking me.
No, for real. You're coming in with this downward bias when it could easily be an upward bias. You have no clue. But the truth is, it's neither.
In a car, if you have a helium balloon and you accelerate, which direction does the helium balloon that's tethered to a string on your console, which direction does the helium balloon move if you accelerate and apply a force acting towards the back of the car?
What's your point?
I'm asking you if you understand the basics of this.
I do understand it. What's your
Which
point?
direction does the balloon move?
What's your point?
That you don't know what direction the balloon
Okay,
moves.
so if I answer it, okay, so since the helium balloon goes forward because the air inside the vehicle, which is more dense,
Correct.
goes back, then I understand it. Then you're wrong. So shut the fuck up.
No, because you have.
Did I understand it? Did I answer the question correctly? Your point was whether or not I understand it. I showed you that I understood it correctly. I answered it, so you're wrong. You admit that, right?
Well done.
But it
Fantastic.
contradicts everything you said.
No, it doesn't, because the air is more dense. The helium balloon is less dense, so obviously they're going to go in opposite directions.
Difference between the two? What's the difference between a helium balloon
Density.
going up? And a helium
That's
balloon
what relative
going
density is.
No, the difference is the direction of the acceleration.
Man, you're so much lower than me. You're like on a lower level for sure. You're more dense. You're definitely more dense than me.
All you want, but I'll still compare SATs to you any day of the week.
Dude, we could
Yeah,
measure anything and I'll beat you.
Well, the other thing makes the difference between me and you. I didn't fall down a fucking rabbit hole and
You
think
need
the
to
Earth.
level up, bro. You need to upgrade. Because right now you're way more dense.
So, speaking of which, can you name any area where there's an upward bias?
Yeah. In a pit of osmium.
And do you have any explanation or want to delve into a description of why?
Osmium's the most dense element, right?
I'm going to go with no. That doesn't answer the question of an explanation or reason why.
Well, what is the state? What is the state of osmium at STP?
It's probably a solid.
Solid, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know
That
what
was- that
STP
was just-
is? You know what STP stands for?
Seriously, you guys are so, like, lame. You'd have
Yeah,
to know
we
what it
don't
means,
have
or at
to-
least understand the context in order to answer the question. We answered the question, right? So you would think,
No, you
let's
really
just-
didn't answer the question.
We said,
No, you made
me and some
something
other
up.
dude both said solid. Like, how elementary do you guys have to be? It's
So
fucking
what is this?
remedial.
I don't know.
Do you know what
percentage.
STP stands for?
I don't
Do you know
know.
what
osmium.
SMD stands for?
How remedial do you have to be to think that osmium is the heaviest element?
Well, what other element can you have that's more that you could have like a pit of, and something will be more dense?
Iridium.
All right, there you go. Iridium then.
Not to mention a whole bunch of transuranic elements.
That still doesn't cover an upward bias.
If it's the most dense thing, then anything inside will have an upward bias if it's left like purely to its devices. If there's no external forces, being acted on it, you're not pulling up anything.
So how would you calculate an upward bias in a pit of osmium?
Same way.
What's the buoyant? How do you
measure the
calculate
acceleration
buoyant in a solid?
You measure the acceleration, you multiply it by the matter, and you just find out the force. Same exact way. You can measure weight in any orientation, up or down.
You realize buoyancy's pretty meaningless when you're talking about a solid, right? Yeah. When you're talking about a solid medium, right? I mean, buoyancy means something if your medium is mercury in a liquid state, right? But a pit of osmium or iridium.
Yeah, well, I meant a molten pit. You know, pit as in it's
absolutely
melted.
no. You know, you can't push something down below the surface of a piece of iridium to see if it floats.
It's a hypothetical, bro. We don't actually
Even
physically
hypothetically,
have molten
a pit of
osmium.
osmium doesn't actually achieve an effect of an upward bias.
It wasn't a hypothetical question.
It was a hypothetical.
No, it wasn't. The question you were asked was name some position or place on Earth where there would be an upward bias. And
He
you
didn't
said
say a place on Earth.
Well, some area system. I can't remember the exact word where there would be.
I said someplace in space,
and you
which
said
does actually include Earth. So you're wrong again. Try again.
And you.
I don't know if you said someplace in space either, but hypothetically, in space, everything that exists would be in space. So anything is in space, hypothetically.
It's hypothetical. Okay, well, is there a non-hypothetical place where there'd be an upward bias?
Well, how about I ask this question? Name something that doesn't exist in space.
How about you
name something that you can measure, something that would display anything that doesn't exist in space. Obviously, the space part is implied because it's absolutely necessary for something that you're measuring, for something physical.
Why don't you answer the question before asking another meaningless one?
I am. I'm just showing you. We weren't talking about a metaphysical subject, so obviously it would happen in space. So it was absolutely
You're deflecting away, and you still haven't provided anything of an upward bias.
If we're not talking about a metaphysical subject, then why did you provide a hypothetical answer as opposed to a real one?
Because we live on the surface of Earth, right? We don't live way let's say 100 miles down in the ground. Everything that we have that we can manipulate and stuff, well, the huge majority of it would rise because
here's a hint. You don't even have to go down that far.
Doesn't matter. The point is, because we're on the surface, because we're surface-dwelling creatures, the thing that we
actually
observe
really
the most
does matter
is things going
because
down.
People
because
actually
a lot of the
do
stuff
go
is
down to the
going
depths to achieve an observation
are you always
of
gonna
an
just
upward bias.
Talk over me when I'm answering, or what? Is this just like a temporary thing, or?
Well, if you want to say incorrect stuff or actually drop your little right questions in to try and have a false confirmation that what you're saying is correct, yeah. I will start talking because you cede at that point, and when you continue to blab on, you are the one talking over. Even when you try to state, "Oh, I'm being talked over."
Bro, when you interrupt, you're talking over.
That's not interrupting.
Secondly,
when you ask these little minute questions of right to try and force a false confirmation with what you say in your
that's not interrupting.
Or
as you interrupted
say
me.
something that's incorrect
that
I stated or somebody else stated.
See, I waited for you to talk, right? And then you interrupted me by saying that's not interrupting. I don't know what's wrong with you.
Cabos, you've got to understand when flat earthers accuse you of interrupting, what they actually mean is that they've interrupted you and you're failing to shut up and yield.
Yeah, Adric, that's not fair, man. We had a long conversation. I didn't interrupt you at all. You can't just paint with the same brush.
You did, and I admit I interrupted you a few times, but you interrupted a lot.
Maybe. But in any case, hypothetically, if you had a molten pit of osmium, you would have an upward bias. Because most of the things that you see are going up.
Are we back to metaphysics then, are we? Because you're talking about hypothetical situations.
No, we're not back to metaphysics. We're back to hypothetical physics.
You had to go at us for tracking the conversation into metaphysics. And now, again, you're talking about hypothetical examples.
Okay, so physically, because most of the stuff we see goes down in our day-to-day, we have this downward bias. If we were,
what's the cause of it?
Some subterranean, not subterranean, let's go with creatures in Marianas Trench or something like that. The majority of the stuff we see, gas bubbles or, food or whatever, even when you take shit or whatever, everything would float, right? So we would have an upward bias then. It all depends on, what the kind of ruling balance is between the buoyancy and the density. It depends on the objects and the medium and the average thing. And as humans, our average is that most of the objects of that we have are going down.
Sure, well, but we have a reason for that.
Yes, gravity. Can I just follow on from that question? If you float an egg in water and you put, like the Anthony Riley experiment, you've got salt water and you float an egg in the water. So you'd say the equilibrium has changed and the egg changes from sinking to the bottom to floating to the top. Do you say that when the egg is now floating on the top of the water or near the top of the water because the water is now denser than the egg, do you say that there's still a downward force on that egg or has it reached its equilibrium?
On the egg?
Yep.
Well, again, that's whether you want to view it with this upward bias or downward bias. You don't have to. It's a false dichotomy. You don't have to view it like that at all. You just view it as the disequilibrium between the object and the medium, regardless of any sort of bias.
That's complete circumlocution. It either has a downward force on it or it doesn't. You can't say that varies on your point of view. Either the egg has a downward force on it or it doesn't. Yes or no?
It depends on the medium it's in. So in the water, it does not have a downward force on it.
I already said this. It's in water and you add enough salt to the water, like Anthony Riley, so the egg floats up. Okay?
Yeah,
that's the medium.
At that point, it would have an upward force. In the water, it has an upward force.
Okay, but is there, and that's my question. We appreciate there's an upward force from buoyancy. What I'm asking you is there still a downward force on the egg?
No, not a net downward force. There's
I would say, of course, there is. Otherwise, it would float up out of the medium and away.
Yeah.
In the water, there's a net upward force. In the air, there's a downward force. It's floating on the surface because it's heavier than the air and less dense than the water.
Just in the water, is there a net upward force or is there all upward force and no downward force?
It's a net upward force.
Imagine a percentage like this. Imagine this. Your left hand pushing against your right hand, but your left hand's pushing twice as hard as your right hand. Just because you're moving now to the right, does it mean that there's yet no pressure coming from the right hand? There still
Absolutely.
Is.
That's why I said
half as much as from the left hand. All right.
Absolutely. That's why it's a net upward force. I'm not saying there's no downward force, but it's a net upward force.
Well, if it's a net upward force, what is the downward force? Okay.
It's just the fact that...
Let's just say that you add just enough salt to the water so it doesn't float to the surface. It lifts off the bottom of the beaker and it floats about halfway up the beaker, right? So you have changed the density of the water so that it's basically identical to the density of the egg. So the egg's now suspended, not at the top, not at the bottom, halfway in between. Is there still a downward force on that egg?
I don't know, to be honest. Like, how would you know? You would know the net force. How do you measure, the partial downward like the force that exists that's not the net force?
Well, look, when you say net force, what you're necessarily saying is that there's a combination of two forces in opposite directions.
Yeah, when I'm saying net force, I'm saying that, it's moving in a specific direction because that is the greater force, No,
but it's stopped. It did move, but now it's in the middle of the beaker and it's stopped.
Yeah, so
it's floating
there would be no force at that point in any direction.
Or equal force on both. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no net force.
Yeah. Well, okay. Given that the egg is floating in the beaker halfway up and it is free to move, it's not tied up or anything, the egg is still free to move up and down whenever it likes. It's free to move higher or lower, right? What's the cause of the downward force that creates a net no force?
But how do we know that there is a downward force or upward force at that point?
Well,
if we have a net force and it's zero, how do you measure the individual downward or upward forces that make a zero net force?
Oh, it's easy. You get the beaker with the salt water in it and you adjust the salt water so that the egg floats exactly halfway in between, right? Then you take the egg out and you measure the weight of the beaker and the water and then you put the egg back in. And if there's no net downward force, if there's no downward force on the egg, the weight on the scales will not change when you put the egg in the beaker. The problem you've got is even though the egg is floating exactly halfway up the beaker, suspended in the water, when you put the egg back in, the weight on the scales increases by precisely the weight of the egg, which means there is still a downward force equivalent to the weight of the egg, even though it's floating.
That's the best way to figure it out. It's simple too.
Yeah.
Because it's not really the same, because now you're taking the egg. Hold up. So this is how I understand it. So now you're taking the egg in the beaker, right, which is all in air, and now you're just that's a single body. That's the mass of that body, right? And you've just basically combined these two things, that one that was the object, the other was the medium, into an object, into a greater medium, which is the air, which has this scale.
You understand you're not measuring the air on the scales because you tear the scale out to compensate for it.
Now you're measuring the beaker with the egg on the scale in air. You've changed the
and
object
the water,
and the medium to not be the egg and beaker, but now to be the beaker with egg and then
but you've isolated you've isolated but percentage you've isolated, right? He's isolated the salt water and the egg from the air. It's isolated away. So that's not a value.
How has he isolated them away? He's combined them into the same object.
They are separate from the air. They're just on the scale. They're not.
I understand, but now it's one object.
And you can seal them and close them. Right.
It makes no difference. I can measure the beaker with the water and the salt, right? And then I can measure just the egg. That's all been weighed in air both times. And then I can put the egg in the beaker with the water and the salt, and the total weight of that is equal to the sum of the other two measurements of.
Yeah,
so it makes no difference.
And you wouldn't expect it to be any different because you're literally just making two objects into one object.
You wouldn't pick up the egg on the scale though. It would only weigh the volume of the water, right? It wouldn't weigh the egg if the egg were actually suspended in the medium weightless.
The point I'm trying to make is this: given two facts, one, the egg's free to move, and it's not moving; it's floating still in the water. That's the first point. The second point is we know there's still a downward force that we translate as weight, because we can measure the increase in weight of the whole system when we add the egg back in. Right, which means there is still a downward force on that egg, which corresponds and equals out with the upward force of buoyancy. The difficulty you have is identifying what that force is that's equaling out the buoyancy.
No, again, see, you're weighing this beaker with egg in air. Of course, there's going to be a downward force of the egg when it's weighed against air. So on the scale, where it's
it's not
being weighed against air, there's going to be a downward force.
But it's inside of the liquid.
It doesn't matter. It's still part of this object which is weighed against the air. The medium that it's in is air in that regard.
We all agree it's a force. I want you to identify what that force is.
What do you mean?
Well, it has a vector. A force with a vector.
Yeah, I mean, the buoyancy is pushing the egg up. The weight of the egg is pushing the egg down. And they've equalised themselves out so that the egg is actually floating still halfway up the beaker. I want you to identify the version of reality. What is that force?
And why is the denser medium heavier?
The upward force is buoyancy. What's the downward force? We say it's gravity. What do you say it is?
I say upward and downward is relative density. You could say if you want, upward is buoyancy and or less density, and downward.
So how does relative density have a vector? It would be vectorless, though, right? So
it wouldn't be. It depends on the object.
Why wouldn't it be? Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't it be? Like a bubble would go sideways out of a pool of water. Why wouldn't it? If there was no vector, if it was just density.
No, it's up and down, obviously.
Well, then why? There's a reason for that.
Who knows? That's just the way.
No, Well, I mean, I agree. I'm not saying.
I could say, why isn't gravity sideways?
Space-time curved. Well, that's the problem, though. We have
The
the,
mass
you know,
creating the gravity below us. That's why.
What's that?
the
Because
mass is
gravity
below
doesn't
us.
go sideways because the mass generating the gravity is below us.
Yeah, but
That's
why
why
isn't it sideways? Why isn't the mass to the side?
Because the mass
Why-
isn't to
why-
the side.
what?
I know, and
It's-
exactly the
the
same
mass-
thing with density. You have the more dense is down.
That's
Why is it to the
ridiculous.
side? Because it's not. That's just the way
The
it's
ma-
created.
No, you're just thinking more accumulation of matter.
The mass
That's where the
doesn't
direction
create
of the
vector.
force. That's the vector.
The mass doesn't
towards
create the vector. The gravity creates the vector. That's why the vector's down.
The mass and the gravity create the force.
Right. Without
Not
the
the mass-
mass,
Right.
there wouldn't be
Not
the
the mass
vector
of the
because there wouldn't be the
object we're
gravity. So yeah.
And
It's the mass does
likewise,
do
you could
it.
say instead of gravity, it's just acceleration of just whatever rate it's going, depending on the densities, the relative densities, with the mass or matter, and that makes the force. It's the same exact effect. It's just different terminology.
You've just identified that the upward and downward force is both relative density, right? You said that about 2 minutes ago. Let me ask you again the question I asked about 10 minutes ago. If the upward and downward force is all relative density, then explain to me why
It's not
two
all
objects.
relative density.
Explain to me why two objects that are composed of the same substance, that have the same density as each other, and both have the same ratio of density between themselves and the medium of air. Explain to me why the bigger one has a stronger downward force.
I've already answered this because it has more mass, more matter.
Mass is not a force.
It doesn't matter. The force is
Wait,
like mass and
it
the
does
it or it
acceleration
doesn't
are the
matter?
functions of the force.
Force is mass times acceleration. You can't
Yeah.
have the force without the acceleration. You've identified a bigger mass. Yay for you. You're not explaining where the acceleration comes from.
What do you? There is no difference in acceleration between these two masses. Their density is going to be the same. The medium they're going to be in is the same. The only difference would be in the mass. So if you're saying that they're
That's
floating
not-
in place, then the force is
that's
going to be the
not-
same. But if you're saying that they're
Percentage, that's nonsense.
ahead.
If you get a 1 centimetre cube of stainless steel and you get a 2 centimetre cube of stainless steel made of exactly the same stainless steel, the 2 centimetre cube will weigh 8 times as much.
in what
Don't tell
medium?
me. Well, in any
If they're-
medium, but
No, not in any medium.
Well, if they're both
For
in the
instance, if
same
you have
medium,
a-
yes.
If you have a pit
Any
of
me-
osmium, what
don't
are they
take
Oh,
going to
come
weigh?
on. Stop playing, man. If you're stuck
No,
in
I'm not
nothing,
playing.
blah, blah,
It matters
In
the
the
medium because
medium
that's
of
what determines the acceleration.
air. It's air.
In
Okay?
air, of course, it's going to be the acceleration is going to be the same, but because of the drag to weight ratio, the more mass,
No,
more
no, drag.
more weight.
These 2 cubes of stainless steel are
Really, go
sitting
back to the
still.
vacuum.
These 2 stainless steel cubes are sitting still on a kitchen scales. Drag is utterly irrelevant.
It is very relevant.
What is the drag force
Instead
on
of
a
drag,
cube
you just
sitting-
brought in this object that's physically impeding it, just like drag would.
What is the drag on an? What is the aerodynamic drag on a cube sitting by itself on the table?
The table itself is acting like a really strong drag. It's
He's
physically
saying
impeding it, just
Are
like
you
drag
thinking
does.
buoyancy? Buoyancy because of the air, some sort of pressure. I mean,
I think
what are
when
you
he's
doing with drag.
I think he's confused. I think when he says drag to weight ratio, he really means surface to weight ratio.
No, I mean drag to weight ratio if they're falling, but if they're not falling, if they're
What-
stationary on a table, they're being
What-
physically
I
impeded.
think you're
causing
right.
the
I think he's talking about pressure. Yeah.
How much drag is there, and what's causing it on an object sitting stationary on a table?
An object sitting stationary doesn't have any drag because it's being
Okay, so
physically
stop
impeded.
talking about.
It's the same kind of
stop
effect.
talking about drag. It's
Well,
not
initially
being
I said
impeded.
drag because
It's
I was
sitting-
talking about it falling, but then you said on a table, and I said it's basically the same effect, but it's just
Oh,
physically
okay,
impeded.
okay. There we go.
Scales. Our two cubes are sitting on 2 identical kitchen scales, right? One of them weighs 8 times more than the other. I want to know why. Don't say drag because there's no drag. They're both sitting still. And need I say,
It's because it's bigger.
hydrodynamic drag does not exist in a fucking solid.
Bro, I already answered your question. Force equals
you-
mass times acceleration. If the density in the medium is the same, the acceleration is going to be the same. The difference is the mass.
Why?
The acceleration on the bigger cube is 8 times more.
It's not
force on the
actually
big
though.
cube-
The
force on
force
the
is
bigger
8 times
cube-
more. The acceleration isn't.
Okay, so
The
why is the
acceleration
force
for both of them is going to be the same.
Why is the force 8 times more? Why is he's right. Why is the force 8 times more?
The force would be 8 times more because the mass is more.
Mass is not a force.
I'm not saying the mass is the force. The force is the force, but the force, the mass
You
is a
agree
function of that force. It's a derivative.
You agree that mass isn't the force. What is the force?
The
Don't
force
say
is
fucking mass again.
the tendency or, the work that it can do. I don't know. Again, inertial force or whatever you want to call it. Why do you have to have a name for it? The point is...
Well, it's one of the theories of gravity.
It's the product of the mass and the acceleration.
Listen, this is a pride thing. He doesn't want to say the word gravity because he thinks, like a lot of people do, that if you say gravity, you mean space-time curvature only gravity. You can't just use it as a placeholder for the vector force that you're talking about, and just say gravity.
No, I could say little g or whatever.
Yeah,
or
I get it. I get it. I know where you're coming from with that because I'm the same way as far as not believing in particular explanations of gravity, right?
It's really
the description I agree with. The description
is caused by the ratio of the weight of the density of the medium to the density of the object. Then two objects of different size and weight would necessarily weigh the same amount because their density is identical.
No, they wouldn't.
That's what you guys say all the fucking
Why would
time.
two objects of different size and weight weigh the same? That doesn't make sense. You contradict yourself.
No, you missed the point. That's not the question. The question is, why do they have different weight?
They have different weights because one of them has more matter than the other.
So it's not density disequilibrium, it's matter.
No, the density
area,
disequilibrium
right?
is the acceleration. That's the rate at which it falls, because it's of a disparity of the density between the object and the medium. So there's going to be zero rate if they're the same density, right?
You don't
if there's a huge disparity, then it's going to be negative. If the object is way more dense, it's going to have a negative acceleration. If it's less dense, it's going to have a positive acceleration.
This is grade 8 physics. There's no acceleration and there's no vector without a force. You can't just say two objects weigh
Even
more
a
than each
pseudo
other
force.
mass. If you
Oh,
take
sorry,
those two objects of different mass and put them in interstellar space, they won't move because there's no external force. As Newton said, there's no external force acting on them, causing them to accelerate.
Okay, so when I mentioned pit of
Difference
osmium,
in mass doesn't make weight. You need a force acting on them to convert mass into weight. In
Maybe you
outer
don't.
space, okay, Isaac Newton.
maybe you don't have to have an external force. Maybe it's both internal and external. Maybe it's just a relationship between their respective densities.
Okay, well,
Maybe your
number one,
models got it wrong. Maybe when you have to
Number
cite
one,
interstellar
it's not my
space,
model.
it's as ridiculous
model,
as me citing a pit of osmium.
yeah, it's not my model. It's Isaac Newton's model.
Doesn't matter.
I'm presuming you're not saying you're smarter than him.
No, he's just colloquially saying the one you adhere to, your model.
Yeah.
No, but hang on. The point he's saying is it doesn't have to be an external force, but Newton says it fucking does.
It's both external and internal. It's the
Okay.
relationship between the internal and the external. The density
What's
of
the
the
source of
object,
the-
which is
okay,
the
what-
internal,
Well,
and the
that
density of the
could be
medium, which is
true.
the external.
What's
I
the
mean,
source
that
of
could
the
be true, but we just don't know that for sure.
What's the source of the internal force?
That would be the object. The internal part is the object. The
So
force is the
objects
product.
Objects magically just create a force, do they?
The force
Well,
is the
no, no,
product
it's
of the
magic.
matter and the rate that it's falling. The rate it's falling is determined by the densities. The densities of the
hang on, go
object,
back-
which is the
go back-
internal aspect, and the medium, which is the external aspect.
Okay. All right. So it generates its own force by some unknown means, apparently. Let me ask you this. Given that objects sometimes stand still and sometimes move, does the object decide when it's going to generate its own internal force?
No.
Maybe the spin does. Maybe the
Is
spin
it
of the
sentient?
object.
Does it have a brain? Does it have consciousness? And it says to itself,
Quit being
"I'm now
ridiculous, Adric.
like a rock." No, no, no. It's a rock.
Well, no, those
Say
things
it's a
could
fuck-
all be true too. You think you're joking right now?
He's trying
These are
to make
way
it
outside of
ridiculous.
our wheelhouse, as if you could know that this is
house
not a possibility, but we couldn't. Could we know that that's not a possibility? So we couldn't make fun of it as if it's not a possibility.
If a
Because we couldn't
house brick
know
has
that
an
it's not.
Inanimate objects
I'm
like
just
a
saying.
balloon, where we're tweaking the amount of helium in the air to make it, rise, fall, or be floating in its place. It's not a sentient choice that the balloon is. I mean, you could say that the balloon is allowing it. But
No. By changing the density of the medium, that's not an internal force. You're changing the density of the medium. That's an external force. There's nothing going on.
changing
inside
the density of the
or
balloon
the
itself
house brick.
is internal. The medium that it's in is external.
Hang on. When you've got an egg floating in a beaker of water and you put more salt in the water, how are you changing the density of the egg?
You're not. You're changing the density of the water,
Exactly.
but you could get like a really narrow needle and pump some stuff in the egg itself
No, but we're
without
not
breaking the
we're not
shell, and you
talking-
could change the density of the egg.
Yes, but you can get the density. You can get the egg to move without changing the density of the egg, can't you?
Exactly. It's a relationship between the two.
No, you said you can change. Okay, so where's the external force? Where's the internal force?
The
Where does it
internal
come
would be
from?
the density of the object. The external
so
would be the
den-
density of the medium.
Okay, so density is a force and a vector now.
No, it depends on the medium that it's. You can't just look at one density. It requires both. Okay, it requires both the object and the medium all the time. There's going to be no, disparity. There's going to be no acceleration, no rate of change or anything if you're not looking at both. Now, if they're the same densities for both the object and the medium, you could have zero acceleration, right? But you always have to look at both.
Force requires energy. Where does the energy come from to generate the internal force in the egg or the house brick?
Does force actually? Okay, well, force requires energy. Where's the energy
Force
come from?
requires energy. It can be kinetic energy. It can be magnetic. Can be gravitational. But you need you can't create energy. You can't get power out of thin air, right? Moving something requires a force. It can be a magnet. It can be an internal combustion engine in your car. It can be a ball rolling down a hill due to gravity. But there has to be an energy source for the force to be created.
I don't know if that's necessarily
What's the
true. I would say
What if the
force
what if
is the
source
product
just
of
size of the universe?
movement, but I don't know if it's absolutely necessary to.
Do you
make the
believe in
movement.
perpetual motion machines now?
What's that?
Do you believe in perpetual motion machines? Do you?
I don't think we've discovered one yet.
But do you think they're possible?
Let me ask you: if you have a leaf that falls off a tree in autumn, what's the force that caused it to fall off the tree?
Gravity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Why would I be kidding?
So gravity, which has been acting on this leaf this whole entire time, suddenly decided to, kick in, or what?
No.
Yeah, because the
gravity's
leaf.
been there the whole time. The gravity's been there the whole time, but there's been something adhering the leaf to the branch. That then got weakened. The gravity could overcome it. It's
So
the same.
it's being
as butter-
physically impeded, right?
It's the same. It's the same logic or lack thereof. It's saying that gravity can't exist because butterflies, can fly off the ground. Number
No,
one, they
it's not
have
the same
wings.
at all.
Number two, when they die and stop flapping their wings, gravity takes over and they fall to the fucking ground.
Yeah,
So
no one's
gravity
saying
didn't
that doesn't
suddenly
happen.
take over. Gravity didn't suddenly take over. The connection between the tree and the leaf weakened to the point where gravity could win the tug of war.
But it's not gravity. It's not gravity. It's
Well,
the density
I'm sorry,
of
it's-
the
it's not-
butterfly
it-
is. Hold up. It's the
It's
density
this
of the
nameless
butterfly
convention.
is more dense. It's more than the density of the air. But the butterfly is remaining afloat because it's generating thrust or what have you. So when it dies,
Exactly.
it's just gonna fall because it's more dense than the medium that it's in. It's not gravity. You
Thank you
don't
for-
need gravity for any of it.
Oh, sorry, hang on. So when the butterfly stops flapping its wings, what makes it fall to the ground?
It's more dense. More dense things will fall in less dense mediums, and vice versa.
Why?
Why?
Yes, why?
Because that's just the way the way it was created.
No, I'd say you've got no explanation. It's magic.
What do you mean? That's the way it is.
You can't move things without force. Density
You
is
keep
not
on
force.
saying that, but there's no force necessary for the butterfly to, just because it's more dense, to fall.
This is the fundamental bit of
In
physics.
fact, it creates a force. It doesn't need to be caused by a force. It causes a force.
What causes a force?
As the butterfly is moving down with its mass, that generates a force. You can weigh the dead butterfly's weight, which is a force, as it's falling, right?
Now you've got a circular argument. The force needed to make the butterfly fall to the ground is created by the butterfly in the process of falling.
I don't think a force is necessary to create its falling.
What initiated
You're
the fall?
coming in with your supposition that it has to have a force that's creating this
It's not
rate
my
change. I'm saying the
supposition.
rate change is caused by the relative densities.
Let's get this right. It's not my supposition. It's Isaac Newton's in his three laws of motion. Don't say it's my supposition. It's the supposition of Isaac Newton and
Well,
every
you're
physicist. in the world for the
defending
last-
it, you're promoting it. So I'm just in terms of the argument,
For
just
your
saying
model
it's
to-
your
for your
supposition that you're
model to
making
work,
now.
For your model to work, inanimate objects need to suddenly start generating a force to propel themselves in some random direction, which for some reason always
that's
seems.
not how it is. They generate a force as they're moving. They're moving because of the relative densities.
Can't move until the force. It's not chicken and the egg. You need the force to make the movement.
I
Isaac
don't
Newton said-
agree. I don't agree at all. If you want to, here, let me say it in your simplistic terms, but this isn't a good way of saying it. It's basically saying that the force is relative density. The disparity between the object and the medium is the force. But that's to say it in your black and white way. In reality, it's just a relationship between the object and the density. It creates this environment wherein you have acceleration. That acceleration, along with the matter, creates a force.
In other words, you've got no explanation for any of this. Look, I'm sorry if me.
If that's your takeaway, that's fine, man. We just agree to disagree.
Adric, let me ask you a question, sir. How long do you think it's going to take before you realize what he's saying is it's gravity by any other name?
I know. Still talking because no one else is jumping in.
That's all this is.
It's not gravity, though.
He's taking a long time to get off here.
Gravity
Pull
is
your pants up
downward
from your
bias
ankles,
curve.
Platonic, and have an honest conversation for once, dude.
Yeah, gravity is downward bias. I'm not saying it's downward bias nor upward bias. It just strictly depends on the medium and the object.
Yeah, well, you can't
That'll
really
determine
do
net upward or net downward force.
You can't be effective with that. But if you want to pretend that's what it is, personally, I don't give a shit. Either way, you've explained how water sticks to a ball, so I'm fine with it. Because I don't care that you're wrong. It doesn't bother me.
That's fine.
The point is, the Earth is not flat, and you're doing nothing to help it with this argument.
The Earth is observably motionless, and the horizon is observably flat.
No, it's
the horizon should be observably flat from one angle.
Supposed to be.
Not if you increase your observer height on a globe, right? It should
Ah,
eventually
but
turn into a globe.
That's a
into
question of the rate and what you can see. A circle is curved, a circle is flat. It all depends on how you're looking at it.
No, I mean, side to side, the horizon, which is flat, as you increase your height, should turn into a circle.
And at some point it does. And
Yeah,
you'll be
it
able to
does.
see it more and more the higher you go.
And
Problem
I'll
is,
be
when you
I'll be a
increase, the
glober
diameter of that circle increases also. So
I'll
it
be
takes a
globe
while.
earther. As soon as
You've
they
seen-
have the transition
No,
from the straight line
no,
horizon
don't
to a
you
circle.
dare. Don't you dare. You will not be a globe earther
I
under
know, I
any
probably won't, because they'll never
circumstances.
come with that evidence.
Don't want you. I don't want you bringing your junk onto our side. You and all of your garbage arguments and your games, you stay on the platter side. That's where you belong.
I'm nice and
That's
cushy
where you're
here.
comfortable.
I am comfortable.
I welcome him onto our side.